You want to make some fun Riftbound decks but don't really know where to start. Well, scrap the need to look up a meta deck list because I'm going to show you some decks that are nothing but a blast to play in Riftbound. And starting off with a banger, we have the Yasuo deck, specifically whenever we have the Wind Rider as our chosen champion. The deck focuses on moving our units around multiple times in a turn, and as I'm sure that you can see with the Wind Rider, whenever it moves a third time in a turn, we get a point. This deck focuses on the core mechanic of moving our units around the board and just goes all in with it. We'll be playing spells and gear that lets us move our units around extra and also throw in some units that give us value whenever they move. And if we don't have any of our extra movement cards in our hand, we always have our champion legend to fall back onto, getting at least one extra movement during our turns. The deck doesn't really have as big of a board state as some of the other decks, but we're going to make up with that with some good buff spells and interaction to keep our opponents in check. Instead of a board that wants to build bodies over time, Yasuo opts for fewer creatures that will just be zipping around the board constantly, getting buffed up and scoring us points. And while I do like the other chosen champion of Yasuo, Remorseful, the movement style of play truly has a unique experience that offers a load of fun while playing. Just going all in on the movement mechanic that Riftbound has that is pretty unique to it from other TCGs, and I think that it turned out great for a super fun deck. And a big thing that Yasuo and the other decks that I will mention is that I think that they work really well in most, if not all, of the game modes that you can play in Riftbound. With 1v1, 2v2, 3 or 4 player free-for-all, Yasuo will be able to zip around the board, adding a unique experience to your games and just a load of fun for you to pilot the deck. And now next on our list is going to be the Volibear decks, and unlike Yasuo, this focuses on something in most TCGs, trying to get our resources out fast and swing out with some big creatures. And luckily for us, the Volibear champion legend rewards us for playing into this game plan. Getting a free channeled rune for turn whenever we play a mighty creature means that we get to accelerate faster than other decks whenever they play their expensive cards. Of course, our deck list is going to have a few cards that will help us channel some extra runes, but our big focus and fun of the deck is obviously our big stompy creatures that will just shake up the board. Whether our units disrupt our opponents or give us benefits, we get the upside of channeling a rune with our champion legend, getting to our chosen champion faster. And I'm sure that some of you have noticed that unlike Yasuo, I haven't mentioned which chosen champion for Volibear I like the best, and that's just because honestly, I think that both are just super fun to play with. Furious being a great attacker that will be hard for our opponents to remove, and Imposing being a great defender, getting us some extra card draw whenever people choose to move to a battlefield that it is not on. One being hyper aggro, looking to constantly swing, and one being a great defensive card. This is more of a pick which one you like the most over one that I think is strictly more fun to play with. The really good upside to Volibear is that unlike Yasuo that dives into a unique mechanic for Riftbound, Volibear is going to be teaching people, especially who are new to Riftbound and just TCGs in general, the importance of value over time. Given the deck is mostly filled with just big stompy creatures, we're not going to have a board state until later in the game, but that doesn't mean we're at a disadvantage. I think that newer players could have a tendency of seeing someone up 1 or 2 points early over them and thinking that they're just lost from the game, and Volibear is going to do a great job of showing them that having great late game value can be really fun and powerful while you're playing Riftbound. And our next deck is going to be diving into what Yasuo did and just going all in on one specific mechanic in Riftbound, being set with the buff mechanic. And buffs is exactly what it sounds like. It's a thing that we can give to our units to make them have +1 might. And I know that some of you out there already know that there are other champion legends that deal with the buff mechanic, so what do I think that Set does that makes it more fun than the other options? Set has a special mechanic where he gets to use these buffs as more of a resource than just a static thing that we use over time. What I mean is that a Set deck is looking to spend and use our buffs, which can be seen on our champion legend card, being able to recycle a rune whenever a buffed unit dies to have them re-enter exhausted instead. And this using of buffs is why I've chosen Set Brawler as my pick for the chosen champion of this deck. Brawler has the upside of buffing itself whenever it enters or conquers a battlefield, and on top of that, we can spend its buff to give it +4 might until the end of turn, giving us not only a better pump-up effect with our buffs, but also a great way to keep replenishing the buffs that we spend on it as we conquer battlefields. And so we get to fill this deck with a load of buff support, other creatures that get to be buffed, things that will give buffs out, and so while we are still focusing on getting our big hitter Set Brawler out, we still have a really good board state besides just our chosen champion. And this is why, unlike Yasuo, I wouldn't totally write off the other chosen champion for Set being Set Kingpin, which will give itself +1 might for each buff unit we have at the same battlefield as it. So once again, we have a scenario kinda like Volibear where I don't think that one chosen champion is strictly better than the other. You just have to choose for yourself if you want to do a go tall style of play with set Brawler, or go wide and buff up your board with set Kingpin. So while personally I like getting to spend my buffs in unique ways with Brawler, both are still loads of fun to pilot no matter what game mode you're playing. And the real strength of a set deck is just how resilient it is. You're always going to have a decent board state and have cards to buff up those units so that they can be even stronger. And so while you're not going to be able to zip around your units like a Yasuo deck or have the top end of a Volibear deck, it's still a load of fun and really consistent whenever you're piloting it. And if you made it this far, be sure to subscribe for more, as these were my 3 picks for the most fun decks to try out in Riftbound, so be sure to let me know if you think I've missed one, or if you're just loving a certain deck right now that I didn't mention. But that's going to do it for me, so until next time, have a good one.